Hello everybody! Holy crap, I'm back with a book review before it's been like 7 months? What is this travesty that we're doing? Yeah, I actually got done with Divergent very quickly. So, I'm here to talk about it, even though I know it's like a 3-year-old book by this point, or like 2-year-old, or 4-year-old, I don't know. It's an older book now. So, yeah, of course, like I said, Divergent. What did I think about this? Because I was originally going into this with a lot of trepidation because I did not like the film at all. I thought it was a piss poor Hunger Games ripoff, and on top of that, its world was not particularly well built or anything. And a lot of people kept saying, "Ah, you gotta read the book. You gotta read the book, man. The book explains so much more. Oh, you can't criticize it because you gotta read the book." Okay, I can criticize a film if it doesn't do a good job. Because if a film cannot hold itself up well without reading that book as well, we have problems. So, what did this... So, what did we end up with then? Instead of, Hunger Games ripoff like I was thinking, it was a fine enough book. I will say there's a lot of obvious homages to Hunger Games that people are separated into different groups or factions on pretty much not where they live as much like with Hunger Games, but more based upon what they do, what they know, how they feel, and all that. Those who actually watch the film know that there are 5 groups. Yes, 5 groups. Abnegation, Amenity, I cannot pronounce them correctly, so I'm stupid. Dauntless, Erudites, and Candor. Sorry, Candor's always the forgettable one. They're just the people we always tell the truth. Bullshit. I always like to say that they are. It's like, how is anyone proving that you are actually saying the truth? So, yeah, like I said, this is a fine enough book. It's a lot better than the film. It expands on a lot of different things, such as it actually makes Trish actually an interesting character. You get to see a lot more into how she feels about things. But it still has the problems of, you can tell this is somebody's first novel. Nothing against Veronica Ruth. I think it's Ruth. Roth. Sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry, Veronica. Nothing against her. It's like you can tell, though, that this was written in, like, chunks in a way. Like, the first 30, 40 pages probably written while she was still in college, because you can tell that there's attempts to try and make this very formalized, if that makes sense. Pretty much it reads like you would think any other novel would read, which makes it very formulaic, and you're like, alright, there's this world. But then, whenever it starts actually going into Trish going with the Dauntless and all that, it breaks out of that and decides to go into its own thing. And Veronica Roth's voice begins to actually become very apparent. Instead of the first, 40 pages where I was like, wasn't hating it, but I was like, it's totally forgettable. It's not Twilight by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, that's not a vote of confidence for that film. Or that book. But this was an easily, I've read this 1,000 different times. This is a Rick Riordan. He's wrote this now after he gave up after the Percy Jackson series. The first 5 books, I'm going to put it that way. But then, like I said, she finds her own voice. It's almost an interesting parallel in the fact that the book finds its voice whenever Trish also finds her own voice. She begins to discover and decide who she wants to be. So, that's an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, once it begins to get into that, it's like, alright, their writing improves quite a bit, and it's actually very interesting. And in terms of the writing, the story's not really interesting. It's the big problem with the Divergent film, that there's not really a lot of... there's no meat to these bones. And that is true here, though you get a lot more of interplay between different people, such as Trish's own issues with Peter, her relationship towards Will, Al, Christina. Al is a character I don't even think was in the movie, if I'm not mistaken. Or if he was barely mentioned. her own feelings towards Eric beyond the fact that in the film he's a coked out of his mind, seemingly what's his name, Michael Jai White. But in here he's just kind of an ill-tempered asshole, and that's fine. That's what I kept saying. It's like, this is fine. This is nothing hateable. This is nothing wrong with this. There's just nothing great about this. It never pulled me in all the way. I mean, I was flipping through this pretty quickly. I mean, one, it's a pretty decent, quick and easy read. It's double-spaced. Like anybody who's trying to... I'm totally making this book longer than it actually is. Ha ha, you're a liar. Pardon me. But... you can get through it fine, and you'll find yourself just breezing through it. But to be fair, you can do the same thing with Twilight. Here, at least it's not as aggressively bad. It's just aggressively bland. There's not a whole lot of pepper to this. There's not a whole lot of spices to it. It's just, hey, this happens, and then stuff. Like, the whole her training in Dauntless never felt important. That's a big issue with this whole book. And it's an issue also with the film, though at least the film tried to balance a little more, though the film failed at it. Constantly her trying to rise up in ranks in Dauntless are brought up throughout this entire book, and it's made into a big deal, and we're supposed to be rooting for her, but it's like, why does it matter exactly? In fact, that's an issue with the world as a whole. Why are all the factions separated? They originally said why they originally got started up, which is fine. That actually made sense. It's one of the things that actually helps to fix some of the issues with the film. But this never explained why they're still that way. They never mentioned, like, why is Divergent even a problem? Just because they don't particularly fit in a certain groove? Why does that really matter? And whenever you're constantly saying, well, why is that? I mean, why is it? You're going, okay, well, you're not trying to explain this. And that's the thing, it never tries to explain. As far as I know, in fact, reading some people's reviews and talking about the later books, they never really explain why Divergent's a problem. Or that even Divergent's actually really an issue or anything. I don't know. I kind of don't care too much. Because if you're going to make a big deal about it in your book, put it in the book. Especially considering this is such a very light, pointless book, it feels like. This is really the dinner roll of a book series. And it feels that way in a lot of respects, beyond the fact that it builds up a sort of unique world, doesn't put a whole lot into it, and then, hey, we're going to start up a conflict that starts up literally in the last 100 pages. Mind you, the last 100 pages of this book really read like the last 50 pages of a normal book. I'm not saying this is abnormal or anything, it's just young adult. So because of that, it feels like the conflict just arises, sort of has an ending, and then done. And it's like, alright, moving on to the next book. It feels very dissatisfying. It doesn't feel like you get the resolution you want with this. And that's a problem. This is obviously serious pandering. Or Veronica Roth, sorry, I'm butchering her poor name. Or she originally wrote this, much less, I think, with Cassandra Clare, when she wrote her City of Glass and all that, the three Mortal Instruments books. So the first supposed to be trilogy, that originally they were supposed to be 2 books, and then somehow got split into 3, because that second book really didn't do anything for a chunk of it, and the third book really didn't do anything for a long bit of it. And I know it does have an issue if you try to take away from the actual moving forward plot of your book to explain backstory. But here there does need to be hints to it. There needs to be, some explanation. It's like the most explanation we get why this world is the way it is because there was a war. So then this war happened, but obviously people lived. Was it nuclear? I mean, what happened? Exactly. At least with, Hunger Games, if I'm not mistaken, they actually explained straight up it was a massive war, devastated most everything. Civilization started, kind of rising from the ashes. The capital declared themselves permanent leaders of it. The districts wanted to revolt. Capital crushed them. And started the Hunger Games. Long and short. Here, you don't get that. You don't get that little, snippets here and there of something. You just get a snippet of a war, or mentioning of a war, and I think that's like a throwaway line at, the quarter mark. Beyond that, we don't get why the world is still the way it is. Why pretty much being treated as not having a faction is like being treated as a homeless person. It's like, what does it matter? Why do we need to be that way? And not only that, but your main villain, Jeannie, if I'm not mistaken, is how her name's pronounced, or Giannini, I don't know. Fuck it, I don't really care that much. She is so blatantly evil. It's like, oh, ooh, you're the bad person, I know it, and, kind of shows Trish is kind of an idiot at times, because, she takes forever to get what Jeannie's doing or why she's doing it. It's like, God, Trish, you don't even need to be smart to be able to figure this out. But yeah, it seems like I'm really just kind of trashing on it. And I will also say this much. The relationship between Thor and Trish doesn't feel quite as creepy as it probably could be. There is still some weirdness. They keep having to bring up her age. And they have to mention at times about the fact she has issues with sex because she's never had sex. It's like, oh, well, I'm a virgin too. Bullshit. Bullshit. You've been sitting here with a bunch of people who are trying to prove they're not afraid of stuff, and you want to say you're a virgin? Asshole. But at least it's not Edward Bella. It's not, hey, I've been spying on you since you got to town while you've been sleeping. Ain't I sexy? Yeah, Edward saying that to Bella was the creepiest damn thing in the world. But the worst part was that Stephanie Meyer tried to mean that as a very sweet thing. It's like, no, that's terrifying. To know that some creepo has been creeping on her while she's not been wanting him to, obviously, without her consent. And we're supposed to find this attractive. We're supposed to find this endearing. Here, Thor's a bit of a dick, but he means well. It's the regular thing you can say. And that's the thing. I can say a lot of this, you may have seen it in other books, but this is done fairly well. It's a lot of copy and pasting, it feels like. But I'll say at least Veronica Ross, she at least has her own voice. She still writes at least competently. It's not Stephanie Meyer or L.J. James or E.L. James. I can't remember. She's at least feels like she has a decent education. She doesn't feel like she was raised up by a frickin' pack of wolves. So, would I suggest this to anybody who's not read it already? That's the thing. I don't think I can. It's not bad, but you're not going to care. I don't think if you were interested in this and you haven't read it, you're going to probably like it. If the premise sounds interesting to you. But if the premise doesn't sound interesting to you and you decide you want to read it, you're probably not going to care. I don't think you're going to hate yourself. You're not going to feel like this is the worst novel ever. But you're going to be completely ambivalent to the entire thing. And that's how I kind of feel towards it. I might eventually get around to reading Insurgent. I don't know. I'll decide how I feel. Yeah, meantime, Divergent, if you just really want to read it, you're probably going to like it. But if you don't care, don't bother. There's many other books you can go out there and read. Yeah, so that's how I feel towards Divergent. Right now I'm reading some mangas just let you know, I have actually a bit of a backlog. I originally was running low whenever I finished my Inuyasha. I was like, oh, okay, let me go buy my nearby half price. They resell mangas and stuff like that. See if I can get me a couple. And I've stocked up. I've got quite a few now, so this should last me a few weeks. But if not, in the meantime, I'll update with something. I think I might start reading Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I picked that up at half price as well a while back, and I'm really interested in reading it because I read a review of his. One of my friends actually really highly suggested it to me, since he knows that I'm kind of into young adult stuff. You know, and also I'm into more mystical stuff, though I do like sci-fi as well. But it's hard to find good young adult sci-fi. Proof. It's not bad, it's just it's entirely forgettable. So yeah, that's Divergent for you. It was a book I read. That's the most I can really say positive and negative about it. So yeah, till next time, probably. In fact, actually, I'm gonna have another inconsistent bookworm up probably within a couple of hours, maybe a day or two. We'll see how it all pans out in terms of filming. So until then, I'll say bye-bye, everybody.